So having been to see James Gunn's new Superman movie and reviewing it, I thought, why not rank all of the live action Superman films? And that's what I'm going to do for you now, from worst to best. Okay, so this ranking here, I am not going to include 1948 Superman, 1950s Atom Man versus Superman, and Superman and the Mole Men from 1951. Reason being is because, I'll be honest, I have not seen those films in decades, since I was a child. So this ranking is going to be going from the 1978 Superman the movie. Also, I'm not going to include Justice League in this ranking or any animated movies. It's the live action Superman movies. I'm going to include Batman versus Superman because clearly Superman's a big component of that, but not Justice League, simply because Superman is part of an ensemble. It's not a Superman film, and he only comes back into it towards the last third act. So anyway, let's begin with this ranking, and there may be some or may not be some surprises therein. Now, do remember, this is just for fun. This is just my opinion. It's not gospel. It's what I think, what I feel. Everyone is different. Art is subjective. So with that being said, let me know down in the comments how you would rank the Superman films and how you feel I've done with my ranking and my reasoning. So 8 movies. So in the 8th spot, I struggled. Seriously, I struggled. I'm going to have to put Superman 4, The Quest for Peace from 1987, directed by Sidney J. Furie. Now, seriously, I've been toying around with 3 and 4 like this. The reason I put Superman 4 last place is because it's a cheap film. It's a very cheap film. Half of the budget was stripped away from it so they could go and fund, Canon could go and fund Masters of the Universe, Dolph Lundgren. Sorry, I was going to say Superman then, but yeah, and it had a reduced budget. Obviously, Christopher Reeve done part of the story, the writing. The film had potential to be far, far better than what it actually is. It's horrendous. A lot of reused special effects, the same scene over and over and over again. It was great to see Lex Luthor back, yes, and Jon Cryer is in it as his nephew, who would later go on to play Lex Luthor himself in the Arrowverse in Supergirl. He was a good Lex Luthor. But no, this is quite a poor film. There is a whole subplot that has been deleted from the film, with a first kind of bizarro nuclear man, bizarro Superman that gets made before the nuclear man that we see. That was all omitted from the film. A lot of it was actually filmed. You can see rough parts of that online. But for me, yes, easily the worst of the Superman franchise. Gene Hackman's return couldn't save it. Then in 7th spot, Superman 3 from 1983, directed by Richard Lester. Now, like I said, originally when I started this out, I was going to put this in last place, but then I got thinking about it, and, you know, the whole scene with Superman turning bad and the splitting and fighting himself, there's some great stuff therein. That being said, there's a lot of stuff that isn't great as well. Some of the effects do work better than what they do in Superman 4. Some of it not so much. It's a very convoluted storyline, and for some reason it gives me kind of James Bond vibes from that same era. I don't know why that is. I have never landed on a reason for that. You know, obviously it kind of turned into a Richard Pryor vehicle. Margot Robbie as Lois Lane is ejected from the film. It's a wonder she came back to actually do her lines and her scenes, just to be, you know, screwed off out of it. I do like the sort of return to Smallville and all this sort of stuff, and seeing Superman out of Metropolis and doing what he does there. There are some good action set pieces, but there's a lot that drags this film down. It does feel overlong, over bloated, but there are some really good bits within the film. But there we go. Sixth spot, probably surprising some, it's this new Superman 2025, James Gunn's new film. So I've watched it. I'm hoping that the film will grow on me, but also I don't know whether I've actually aged out from this type of film as well. It's a question that I've got to reach inside myself and find the answer to, because I'm a big comic book fan. I've read comic books all my life, and this film really has embraced the comic book of Superman, or a, you know, what would be a comic book look and feel to the world that they've created. Problems for me lie in the fact that Superman himself, although David Corenswet is very good and I like him, Superman is not as he doesn't ooze that hero-esque kind of quality that he needs to. He is more human in this than we've ever seen him. And by that I mean he's more prone to outbursts, anger. Not so much anger in, you know, in what he does, but there's moments in it where he's just played very, very human, and I don't mind that in a sense, because we've had that with other Supermen on TV, like with Tyler Hoechlin's Superman, which was very good. But there's something different here, something that's just amiss. The film is bloated. You know, it is, there's no wow factor to anything that goes on in this film. There's not one scene that I can grab a hold of and say, that was fantastic. That, you know, that really did solidify this movie, that one scene. You know, there's no takeaway like that from the film. For me, it's just an okay movie, you know. I'm not a fan of... what's his face, who played Nicholas Hoult, who played Lex Luthor. You know, I've never seen a role of his that's actually sold him on me yet, this one included. I thought it may have been this one. So a film I was really looking forward to, and I just came out with, it's merely okay, which is a shame, really. And then fifth spot, 2016, the Zack Snyder directed Batman vs Superman. Now, with this one, I'm talking about the extended cut that was done for it, not the theatrical cut. Okay, so I enjoy this film. However, there's a lot that I have issue with. Surprisingly, I do enjoy it. But, you know, Superman's in it a lot, but he doesn't hardly say anything. But that aside, the film kind of messed up several big comic book graphic novel that could have done adaptations into film. And I'm talking about you've got the whole Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns in there as a kind of plot point. You've got the death of Superman as a plot point, and I think things like this hadn't been earned yet, you know, especially the death of Superman storyline. This is the second film in the DC EU, and you come away from the end of Man of Steel with all the city destruction, all this sort of a thing, and then in this we're meant to care about Superman having died. There should have been another couple of films of Superman in before they'd done the death of Superman, so they kind of squandered all that in this film, which is such a shame, because that's the one thing I do hope that James Gunn does, if he gets the opportunity, to give us a proper death of Superman storyline and the return of Superman with the 4 other Supermen. That would be great. I would really embrace that if he'd done that. But yeah, so Batman versus Superman is a very flawed film for me, but an enjoyable film, if that kind of makes sense. It's flawed. I have issues, but I enjoy it. I can watch it, and I can watch, you know, Man of Steel, Zack Snyder's, so Batman versus Superman. I can go into Justice League, you know, I can end it with The Flash as a bunch of films. Yeah, so that one was my fifth spot. Fourth spot is Superman Returns from 2006, directed by Bryan Singer. He jumped off of X-Men for this, and what he gave us was a love letter to Richard Donner's first Superman movie. It's pretty much the same film, beat for beat, to be honest with you. And I get that some people will watch this film and they find it boring. I get that. And when it first came out, again, it was a film that has grown on me over the years, because I was a bit, that's not as good as what it should be. But Brandon Routh was fantastic in it. I can't fault Brandon Routh for what he'd done. I really liked his Superman. Shame he didn't get a sequel, but I was very happy to see him return in Arrowverse as Superman. There are the moments. There is a lot of emotional weight to this film. There's a lot of emotional scenes, and this is what's lacking from James Gunn's film. One of the big issues I have with that is no emotional weight to pretty much anything whatsoever. But in here, you do have some of those moments that stand out. You know, those heroic moments for Superman that do stand out and are remembered through the film. And I'm talking about scenes like the aeroplane save at the beginning and the space shuttle, that sort of thing. Fantastic reintroduction of the character of Superman. You've got the whole scene with the boat and them drowning in the boat and him pulling the boat up and taking them out and then letting go of the boat. You got the lifting of New Krypton out of the sea, and you know, after he's been stabbed and all this, and that's where the emotion comes into it. That scene's pretty damn violent, where Lex Luthor stabs him and he's kicking him in and this sort of a thing, where he's weak in his weakened state. So there's a lot of emotional weight in this movie, and you know, it's a love story essentially. It's a slower paced Superman movie with some very, very good moments in it and some dodgy CGI. But there we go. Third place is 2013's Man of Steel, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. Okay, so Henry Cavill as Superman. I really liked him in this film. I kind of started to go off of him as Superman and as an actor come Dawn of Justice. There's something missing from his Superman, you know, but he does physically look the part and he does look good and this sort of a thing. And I didn't mind the darker take on the character that he gave us. Now, for me, Man of Steel is a very well cast movie. It works for me. The world setup works for me. Superman origin, there's a lot of great stuff in this film. The only thing that I do find somewhat rushed is the Lois Lane and Clark Kent Superman stuff, and her finding out about him and who he is and all that. That feels very forced storytelling, but on the whole, it's a very enjoyable film for me that, again, I can sit down and watch quite often, actually. You know, I have no issue with it. Yeah, and it looks fantastic. The one thing about Zack Snyder is he's very good at framing a film and giving you, you know, his style. Very stylistic director, and I do love what he does. It is very good. Zack Snyder is better when he's playing with existing characters that he can't do his own thing with, so to speak. He takes characters that are pre-written, he has to kind of keep on a path with them. He's shown it with The Watchmen, with his Justice League films, you know, this DCEU, the films that he's done there. But when he's let alone to do a film of his own, like Rebel Moon and things like that, then he falters in the character department. But here, it's all very good. So, second and first spot now. Second spot. Now, I know some people are going to have this in their first spot. They most definitely will. It's Superman 2 from 1981. But what about the Donner cut, you say? Richard Donner cut. Okay, I'm doing this as one film. Okay? I'm only going to do one Superman 2 if that kind of makes sense to you. Now, my go-to version of Superman 2 is the Richard Donner cut. I prefer the Richard Donner cut over the Richard Lester theatrical release. Okay, I always have. When that came about, I really liked it. I thought it was great. I thought, you know, so the only version of Superman 2 I watch is that Richard Donner cut. That goes into second spot. If it was Superman 2, the Richard Lester cut, that may have been below Man of Steel. Okay, now I know that Superman 2, even the Richard Lester theatrical cut, is a much loved film. I really like it. I do. I like the Donner cut more, but I don't put it as high as a lot of other people do, because they put it as the #1 Superman film. For me, it's not the #1 Superman film. It's a very good Superman film, just not #1. It's the #1, 1978. Superman the movie, Richard Donner, Christopher Reeve, you know, Margot Kidder, Gene Hackman, Lex Luthor. A fantastic film to this day that I love. You know, I grew up on this film. As a kid, it was a slower burn. As a kid, I probably did prefer Superman 2. Because as a kid, you want to see Superman in uniform. You want to see Superman. You don't want to see Clark Kent. You don't want to see that story of Clark Kent become Superman. You want Superman from the get-go. As an adult, I don't want Superman from the get-go. I love the opening scenes on Krypton. I love all the stuff on in Kansas, in Smallville. I love it all. I love it when he goes back to the Arctic to find the Fortress of Solitude. It's all great stuff. It really is. And the musical score in this film is one of John Williams' best. I'm not talking about the main theme tune, the forever iconic main theme tune. I'm talking about the music therein, especially when he has to say goodbye to his mother. That's a fantastic motif there that goes on, and the camera work through the cornfield with the music sweeping and all this, the music of on Krypton. When you're on Krypton, you see all that. It's really good stuff. It really is. And this film here, it's just, you know, I put this in very high regard as a fantastic movie. Very possibly this film would be in top 10 movies of mine of all time. You know, I loved it as a kid. I love it now. Christopher Reeve's performance as Superman has never been topped. He embodied this character. He embodied Clark Kent. That one scene in Lois's house where he takes the glasses off and then sort of, you know, lowers himself down into a bit more of a slouch, into that Clark Kent pose, and then decides, no, I can't, yeah, no, it's not right, it's not right. And he puts the glasses, it's the other way around. You know what I'm saying? He takes the glasses off, then he goes up into the Superman, you know, chest out, big, you know, and then back down into the Clark Kent. I was getting it the wrong way around now, I don't know why. But, you know what I mean? It's just fantastic stuff. And, you know, Lex Luthor was great in it. He really was, you know, he really tested Superman. You know, none of this nonsense like the 2025 Superman film gave us. You know, this was grounded. This was a grounded film back then. And Lex Luthor's actions are that of a normal man, an intelligent, normal man. You know, nuclear bombs and this sort of thing. It wasn't like, you know, other realms and, you know what I mean? And silly things like that, monkeys on typewriters and all that comic book nonsense. This was grounded Superman movie, the very first one that, you know, you would believe a man could fly, seriously, and I did. So that's my ranking for the Superman movies. 8 down to 1. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know exactly how you would rank these movies. I am interested. I like to hear other people's opinions. That's what it is, an opinion. Yeah, it's some great films. I mean, each one, I you know, all of these films I do rewatch from time to time. Even Superman 3, even Superman 4. You know, I will with James Gunn's one. I'm hoping that it will grow on me and might move up this list somewhat. I don't know if that will happen or not. Time will tell. You know, it's not set in stone. As we get older, as we grow, as we mature, how we perceive things change, how we perceive films work, don't work, you know, they flit around, they move about. But yeah, so anyway, that's me done. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you on the next one. Take care.